Welcome to the first planning of Fillmore Family Adventures. All right, here's Team Fillmore, Jim and Natalie. The other members of our team, Sophia and Madison, are sleeping right now. Sophia is about 3.5 years old, and Madison is about 18 months old. And while they sleep, we're going to bring you through our planning of our first cruise, which is going to be a Disney Very Merrytime cruise on the new Disney Wish. And this will be December 2022, which will be next year. So as you probably know, the ship is launching next summer, but we're going to be going the week before Christmas on the Christmas time cruise. So we're very excited about it.
Awesome, let's get to it.
Okay, well, step number one is planning for the cruise. And we had never been on a cruise before, but we do know that cruise ships are very big. So in this case, got the Disney Wish deck plan, and there are 14 levels. So I don't know if you've experienced this yourself, but step number one, when you're going to book the cruise, first of all, you only could book it out so far in advance, and they actually released it this last Thursday, but I knew if you waited until the release day and then tried figuring out what cabin you wanted, you might be hopelessly lost like we would have been. So we did some advanced planning, and for Disney cruises, they have all these categories of the staterooms. So they go from 1A all the way to 11C, and I believe it's about 16 categories of staterooms for the Disney Wish. So it could be a bit overwhelming what the difference is between all these. So what I did for our family is to go through and figure out in advance which ones were our top priority, and I also didn't know if those would be available or what the price would be for each. So we want to have a prioritization of here's what we'd really like, and if that isn't available or too expensive, here's our backup category. So the first thing I did in doing my research is knowing that with 4 of us and 2 small children, we want to be able to sleep at night, and most likely the kids, we might be attempting for them to do a nap in the middle of the day. I don't know if they actually will nap, but that would be the plan. But we certainly want everyone to be able to sleep at night. And for our whole family, but for my wife and for Sophia, the 3-year-old in particular, they get a little bit of motion sickness, even in cars. So we know for cruise ships, that could be a bigger factor. So based on our research there, we want to be in the middle of the ship, and preferably to the middle or lower part of that. And it makes sense. If you think of the pivot point of a ship, it tends to be on the middle there. And so therefore, the front being the forward or the back being the aft on a cruise ship are going to rock more or sway more than with the middle of the ship. So for us, that was a priority, having midship if possible. The other part is with all these floors, we didn't want to be the floor right above the entertainment, the nightclubs, nor did we want to be the floor right below the pool deck. I know a lot of people think, oh, being higher up is better and being easy access to the pool deck. And I've read many a nightmare story online where people thought that. And then every morning they're woken up at 5 a.m. with scraping of chairs across the pool deck, because on Disney cruises, they're great about cleanliness, but that means every night they clear everything off the pool deck, whether it's for a party or just for cleaning, and then 5 a.m. they put it back out there. So if you have one of those staterooms right below the pool deck level, it's easy access, but you may not necessarily be sleeping. So for us, sleep was a priority. So for this ship, basically that eliminated deck 10, because that's right below the pool deck, and also eliminated deck 6, because that's above the nightclubs. Doesn't mean those staterooms will all be noisy, but we just didn't want to risk it. So for us, that meant decks 7, 8, and 9 were the ones we wanted to focus on. So I went online to see the details of those, and what I found is on Disney's website, it's great, but you only can see one deck plan at a time. And the problem with that to me is I really want to see where that is relative to everything else. So where is it to the things you want to access, and also where is it relative to things above and below you that could be noisy. So this is what I did. I couldn't read the staterooms on here, so I rebuilt the ship, at least decks 7, 8, and 9, which we knew were the ones that we wanted to consider to be on. So I printed out all these sections of the ship, taped it up together, and now we can actually read the staterooms. I don't know if you could see that, but we'll zoom in on it later.
And we'll put a link in the description below of where you can find the different links to do something like this yourself if you want.
Exactly. So by doing that, also drew lines on our chart here, which I'll show you later on, of where midship is. So midship is considered this section here. So we wanted that because it was going to be less rocking for us. And within that range, typically for a class of cabin, you're going to be paying the same price. So ideally, from our perspective, we want to be in the middle of the midship range. And actually, the room we ended up picking was exactly middle of midship, and it had the other criteria I want. So we can tell you what that was. If money is not an object, then maybe you are in one of the, I believe it's 3 tower suites on this ship, where you have 2 decks and you're above the bridge, and maybe you're telling the captain how to steer the ship, but you are right there, and I think that could be a small house payment to get that. But if that is you probably aren't watching our video, and if you are, thank you, and please donate to the Fillmore Family Adventure Fund. But for most others, we figure you probably aren't in that category. So as we went through this list here, for us, veranda, which is a balcony, actually wasn't necessarily a priority for us. With 2 small kids, a veranda was a nice to have, but we weren't really prioritizing it.
And we know we're going to spend so much time outside the room, really, or that's what we're planning on.
Yeah.
So it was just a nice to have.
Yeah. But what I found in researching for the ship is, since that's a very popular room on most cruise ships, Disney made the Disney Wish 70% of the rooms have a veranda. Mm-hmm. So almost by definition, just playing the odds, you're going to have a veranda. But really, almost all of the rooms, the staterooms that are within our criteria of the 3 floors we want, the 3 decks, and the midship, there's only, I think, 8 staterooms out of a couple hundred which aren't on the veranda. So there's 8 inside staterooms. So the odds are we were going to have one with a veranda, which is fine. You pay a little bit more for it, but it also helps because you're going to have a great view. And if anyone gets claustrophobic, I tend to get a little bit claustrophobic. And as noted, my wife Natalie and our little girl Sophia have a little bit of motion sickness. They find that if you have a veranda and able to get some fresh air, it's an enjoyable view and alleviates both of those. So for all those reasons, we're going to most likely end up with a stateroom with a veranda. And for us personally, when I went through the list, another big factor for me is the square footage on the room. And I noticed the inside staterooms on the Disney Wish were typically 169 square feet, which isn't huge. You don't expect a stateroom on a cruise ship to be huge. But as you go up in category, the regular veranda rooms were 243 square feet, and the one we ended up booking was 284 square feet. So when you think of it that way, going from 169 square feet to 284 square feet, that's going to feel like a pretty big difference. And even though we're not spending all our time in the room, you'll be there enough that it would be nice just not to be totally cramped.
A little more elbow room.
Exactly. So as we came through this list here, for our family, what I concluded ideal would be category 4B and 4C, and they're both deluxe family ocean view staterooms with veranda. And so there's a lot of words there in these Disney categories. The veranda is the deck. On this ship, that means if you want to be midship, almost all of them are going to have the veranda. You'll be paying a bit more for that. Ocean view, They use that to describe whether you have a porthole or a veranda that's an ocean view. So again, there's only 10% of the rooms on this ship that are inside staterooms that don't have any ocean view. So odds are you have that. But another keyword here is the deluxe family, and family is the keyword here. Family is what jumps up the room from 243 square feet to 284. So you are going to pay a little bit more for that. But on our cruise, what I saw was you're only paying a few $100s more. I think we're only paying maybe $300 or $400 more out of a couple $1,000s to get that difference in square footage. So for me, if you think of it as, paying less than 10% more of the total price, and you're getting a room that's substantially bigger. So
Worth
that's
it.
Definitely worth it from our standpoint. And the B and the C and the 4B and 4C, really that just gets into what deck it's on. So the B decks will be 10 and 9, and the C, it will be 10 and 8, and C are 7 and 6. And for us, we're only considering 9, 8, and 7. So basically it means 4B, which in this chart will be the pink rooms on the deck plan, on the middle of decks 9 and 8, we're considering that's 4B, and 4C was the middle, and this graph will be the gray decks on deck 7, and I was eliminating deck 6 just because being above the nightly entertainment, wasn't sure how loud it would be. So once we knew what we were considering, so our sweet spot is right here, and these graphs, even though they're small, once you blow them up, they actually are to scale. So if you notice the ones I had picked out, the gray ones here, if you look at it compared to the dark blue ones next to them, the gray ones have the family in the name. So it's the deluxe family ocean view stateroom with veranda. The dark blue ones here are the same exact name, but they just don't have the word family in it. Those are the ones that are still very nice, but they're a little bit lower square footage. So that's the distinction. Even though if you're trying to look at this small chart, they would look identical. If you read the details of the room, and if you blow up this chart, you actually can see that the stateroom is a bit bigger.
So we'll show you guys, quickly, this is the smaller version that we were referring to. And we'll put some links in the description below, but this is, the larger version you can take a look at if you get a little creative.
Yeah, that's great. And the other thing about being midship is easy access to wherever you're going to. So I purposely picked the middle ship in between the elevator banks and stairs with the idea that people would go from the stateroom to the closest elevator bank or the closest stair. So if we're right in the middle, there'll be less chance of someone passing by in front of our room, potentially making noise. But yet, whatever direction we want to go to on the ship, it's relatively easy access, taking stairs, getting to the elevator. So we're not all the way in the front and all the way on the back.
And the noise may not seem like a big deal unless you have a couple of little kids like we do who might be napping or sleeping in the evening hours when people are coming back to their rooms having fun. It's just kind of nice to take into consideration now in the planning so that we can have the smoothest trip possible.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the planning stage of our trip. We have ours booked. So it's December 19th to 23rd, a 4-night Very Merrytime Bahamas cruise, leaving from Port Canaveral. And this will be on the new Disney Wish. So we're very excited about it. And I know that Disney's done some releases of just generally about the cruise ship. But the reality is the ship hasn't been fully built yet. And that's why you haven't seen many videos yet about the ship itself, because it hasn't had its maiden voyage. That won't be till next summer. And frankly, Disney was just releasing these deck plans and just releasing booking for the cruises. So prior to that, maybe people would guess what they thought the ship layout could be based on other ships, but you actually didn't know what the layout was until now. So hopefully this video is helpful for you. It is our first, and we're planning on launching this and letting you follow our family and our experiences as we do our cruise next year. And we're also going to go to Disney World for Christmas time this year, and we'll share that with you as well.
Yeah, so follow along and like and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and stay tuned for more.
Thank you so much.
Bye.